Sit back, relax and enjoy listening. As guests trickled out of the reception hall, SV, exhausted from pretending to be the perfect bride, slipped away unnoticed, craving solitude, thinking the evening was finally over. In the quiet of her room, SV sighed, trying to regain control. She needed this brief moment to herself, away from RK, the guests, and the weight of everything that had happened. As she leaned against the vanity, staring at her reflection, she heard the door creak open. Her mother walked in quietly, her face calm but serious. "Mom!" SV's voice softened. "Is everything okay?" Her mother walked in slowly, her face etched with concern. SV could immediately sense that something was wrong. "SV, my dear, you need to get ready." SV frowned, confused. "Get ready for what? Everything's finished, isn't it?" Her mother looked at her for a long moment, hesitating. She knew how much SV hated leaving her house, how deeply attached she was to the home she had built. But now, there was no avoiding what needed to be said. "You need to go with RK now," her mother said softly. SV froze, her mind unable to process the words at first. "Go with RK? What are you talking about?" She looked around as if searching for some hidden answer in the air. "Where am I going? What else is left?" Her mother sighed, bracing herself. "SV, you are married now. You have to go live with RK. That's what happens after marriage. A wife goes to live with her husband forever." Upon hearing "forever," SV responded, "You are joking, right, Mom? You know how much I love my house, my space, and my world. How much effort I put into building all this up. You know very well how much I love it. This is the only thing that gives me peace at the end of the day, after you, Mom. And now you are telling me that I am supposed to leave all this behind and go stay with someone forever, just because of some rituals and a ring? Nothing can bind me, Mom." Although SV's mother expected this reaction, hearing her daughter's words still made her cry. Her tears started falling uncontrollably as she tried to wipe them away, managing to look up at SV, who had her back turned and couldn't see her mother's tears. But when she spoke, her voice trembled. "I know, my daughter. I know how hard you worked for all of this. From scratch. You built everything, taking us from nowhere. But this is how things work, and this is my last wish before I go back. Please, go and stay with RK. I've seen how much he cares for you, even when you can't see it. I see it. Please, promise me." Her crying became harder and harder. The words hit SV like a punch. Her mind reeled, unable to grasp what was being asked of her. She picked up on the distress in her mother's voice and turned back to check. She couldn't bear the thought of going with RK, nor see her mother crying like this. SV felt her world crumbling. She never imagined being forced to leave everything behind, feeling trapped. She moved closer to her mother, trying to wipe her tears. "But I can't leave you," she cried, desperate. "I won't." Her mother's expression softened, but her resolve remained. "I am going back to the village tomorrow with your aunt and grandma. You won't be leaving me alone." SV's lips quivered. "But I can't do this. I can't live with him. You don't understand. This is my life, my space. How can I be expected to go and live in his world?" Her mother's hand trembled slightly as she reached for SV's. "I understand more than you think," she said quietly. "But I am worried about you. I need to know that you are with someone who can take care of you." SV's chest tightened at the mention of being taken care of. She didn't need anyone to take care of her. She had built her life, her empire, all on her own. She had never relied on anyone, and she wasn't about to start now. Her mother's voice grew quieter, her strength fading. "Promise me, SV. Promise me you'll go with Ake and stay with him. Wherever he goes, you go. SV's breath hitched at the pain in her mother's eyes. She hated seeing her mother cry, and with her health so fragile, she couldn't refuse. I promise, SV whispered, her voice breaking, but deep down, the pain cut deep. She was not just leaving her house but her independence and everything she had built, thrown into a world she didn't belong to, with a man she couldn't stand. Meanwhile, downstairs in Ake's room, Ake stood before the mirror, his band members quietly watching. The moment felt suffocating, but he locked away his emotions. This was about repay for saving his life, not love or desire. You ready? One of the band members asked, his voice unsure. You really want to do this? Ake took a deep breath, glancing at his reflection. I don't want to, but I have to. It's done. I owe her. The room fell silent again. His friends knew the truth. This marriage was a transaction, a way for Ake to settle his debt. He felt no joy, no anticipation for what was coming. Jill, who had been sitting quietly, finally spoke, his tone careful. Ake, I know you're doing this because you feel like you have to, but just take a moment to breathe. Don't let it be more than it has to be. Ake glanced at him, his expression blank. It's not about anything more. Jill, I'm just doing what's expected. That's it. Jill sighed but nodded. He wasn't going to push it any further. Just then, Ake's father entered. It's time, son. Everyone's waiting. Ake nodded to his friends and headed out, ready to face the moment he dreaded. The final moments. The hall quieted as only close family remained. Ake's parents spoke with SV's grandmother while the band waited. Anticipation filled the air as Ake entered, calm but emotionless. SV and her mother appeared. SV walked slowly, her heart racing, and approached Ake's family with a gentle push from her mother. Thank you, everyone, SV's mother said softly, her voice breaking slightly, for being here with us. She wiped away a tear, trying to maintain her composure. With little more ceremony, Ake turned to SV, offering his hand. She hesitated, her body rigid with anger, but eventually took it. The moment their hands touched, SV's jaw clenched, her fingers curling just enough to feel like she wasn't fully giving in, feeling the cold weight of her promise to her mother. They walked together out of the hall and towards Ake's car. The few remaining family members and friends offered final well wishes, but the air was thick with unease. SV's grandmother smiled sadly, and her manager gave a small nod, knowing full well that this union was far from a fairy tale. Ake opened the passenger door of his car for SV. She slid inside without a word, her face emotionless but her mind whirling with resentment. Ake closed the door, walking around to the driver's side and getting in. He cast a quick glance at her, but neither spoke. Ake drove in silence, the tension between them thick and suffocating. This wasn't a marriage. They were simply two people forced into a situation neither of them wanted. Behind them, Ake's family and the band members piled into another car, following close behind. The weight of expectation hung over them all as the cars pulled away from the hall, leaving behind what little remained of their old lives. As the city lights blurred past the windows, SV stared out, feeling like a prisoner being taken to a life she never wanted. The world outside felt distant, as if she were watching someone else's life unfold. She clenched her fists, holding back the emotions threatening to spill over. She had made a promise to her mother, but deep down, she wasn't sure how long she could keep it.